Welcome again to the Motley Croc Show. It's 5/29/2025. I can't believe it's how much it actually flies. I know we get on here and we talk so much crazy shit that I'm like, oh, I'll see you next week. I'm like, oh, I got a whole week, and then it turns around that I'm right back again, and then everybody's here. And as always, we're all here backstage. I finally have Goldilocks. I'm like, I'll bring her up. Britt investigates, and the manic satanic. Now I do have my special guest backstage. I do.
Special guest.
Come in because we're going to talk about some cool shit. Some shit that I talked with them about. And I'm not saying they, them as a pronoun. I'm just saying them because I don't want to give it away who it is I'm actually talking about. Were things that I had never heard of, right? And I'm like, no, I haven't even heard Brittany talk about that. So I'm sure you know about it, Brittany. I'm sure there's some really cool stuff that you know about. And I'm sure it's really, really awesome. So you'll probably know when they talk about it. But me and Jeff will be like, and maybe Jeff knows, but I for sure didn't know. So there's just some weird things that I don't know about sometimes. And while I set that up, we'll make sure that we get going. Right?
Yeah.
You learn too, because I always learn stuff when I talk.
I love learning new things.
Anytime I talk to somebody that's in that field, I learn something.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I've been in it forever and I still learn new things. I'm like, wait, what? Tell me about this. I need to know more.
If you stop learning, then you already lost.
Exactly.
Agreed. I'll tell you what I've stopped learning. It's fucking Satan's asshole fucking hot outside. That's all I can tell you. Oh my God,
it's ridiculous.
I can't believe this.
Today was the hottest low in Florida history, I think. The low temperature today.
What was the low today?
It was like 81 or something like that.
Maybe it's because they knew who was coming on the show and they all migrated here and created heat. I mean, there could be that.
Is it heat miser?
Yeah. They caused a heat miser. So what I will do is, without further ado, I will bring this person in. I'd like to welcome Brooke Moreland.
Surprise.
Brittany already knew probably. I'm sure somebody sneaked. But
no.
Talking to Brooke tonight, which is going to be fun because she had a conversation with me about some stuff that I didn't hear about, like there's a real name and a scientific name, and I was really blown away, and I do want to get into that, so we'll definitely lead into that after we hear some of the exciting stuff you've been doing this week. I know you've done some cool stuff, though, Brooke, this week. You said you traveled a little, and you went to, like, some places. Yeah. Let's hear about it. I'm so interested.
Well, I got to collaborate with Brittany this week, so that's been super fun. So we got to do that. But yeah, I had some trips over the weekend. We did some scouting out in our research area, which was really cool. And we found some pretty interesting stuff with some pinned down trees and some possible impressions. So we've been busy. And then I am gearing up for my Tennessee trip. I'm speaking at a Bigfoot camp out. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be collaborating with Forest of Monsters, Michael James, and I think some people in that Eastern Tennessee network. So I'm really excited about that.
Cool.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah. It's going to be a good time.
Aren't we, Brittany, aren't we supposed to go to something in Gatlinburg in July?
Yes. The Bigfoot conference in July 27th.
And you're going to be talking about the Mothman?
Mm-hmm. Mothman 101 session. Yep.
There's some really twisted shit to that I was unaware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, I know some people have tuned in. Hope to God there's some more people coming in. I see some here, some there, and I'm looking at all the different levels, and we're actually on 4 or 5 different channels tonight. So we're only going to get, all you're going to see on here is probably what you're getting through direct YouTube or Facebook, but I've got Twitch up and I'm doing pretty good on here, and it's live on my Instagram page. So a lot of my scumbag followers are coming here too. They might say something.
We love the dirt.
We might get more of those weird dirt bags that talk shit, Jeff. You know, when we also get the religious crusaders come in, we get a lot of shit sometimes here, folks. So I just want you to know that I welcome it.
Yep.
And, you know, I mean,
we take all types.
They usually end up hitting on Brittany by the end of the night. So I'm sure Brooke might get some of that too. I mean, that's just what
great.
They are.
It's probably true. It happens.
They're like, oh my God, Brittany, I love your teeth. I'm like, what? Stop showing your teeth. It's weird.
Hey, we have our love and light surrounding us.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. Brooke has that Delilah. Next up on the Delilah show.
Can I tell you something?
Michael loves his young woman, and so he wants to dedicate this song. Yes, please. I love it. Please do.
No, my therapist said that to me like an hour ago. Like,
Right?
someone told me this week because she was asking, she's like, "How's the podcast? How's that?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's going really well," just like chatting with her. And I was like, "Yeah." Someone was like, "They really like." They said my voice reminded them of someone. She was like, "Oh, Delilah, so and so," and she went into this whole thing, and I was like,
Delilah.
yeah,
Yes. Have you ever heard her, Brooke?
no,
Listen to her later.
Oh.
You can look her up on YouTube. One of her shows. Just put up the Delilah show. And it's all about like she's like, oh yeah, and she talks just like you. She'll be like, so tonight we have Jennifer with us, and she just wants to give some love to her grandmother tonight. And she wants to dedicate the song "You're the
I
Wind
miss
Beneath My
Delilah.
Wings."
I
And then
miss Delilah.
when I talked to Brooke on the phone, when she was talking to me like this, she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go investigating. I'm like, oh my god, real radio. I feel like I'm on 107.7 right now. It's just we all know who Delilah is, but you, so you should check it out. But no, it's a really calming
Mhm.
voice you have, Brooke,
Thank
and
you.
it's very calming to listen to you. So I think you probably do really well as a host on your show. I bet you do really well because it's important to have a voice because
It is. That's why I'm trying not to howl when we go out into the woods anymore. I used to do like the Bigfoot calls, and there's this one gentleman who we've gone on some expeditions together, and so he's heard me. And I saw him at the conference that we were just at the soiree we had afterwards, and
Yeah,
we were
Judy.
out there investigating. And I was like, "Is somebody gonna do a
Judy.
call?" And he looks back and he's like, "Yeah, I'm waiting on you to do it." And I was like, "Oh." And I was like, "Jeff, I'm trying to preserve my voice now. I can't like be out here hollering at the skunk ape anymore." Because it's, you have to put some,
It's not
You
there.
got
We know.
girth in there. You got to put some
Yeah.
girth in that.
and
Yeah.
this is the voice. I can't damage it,
Well,
Mhm.
considering there's no
Mhm.
skunk ape, and they probably gonna have to call far to get something out of Atlanta or somewhere near Georgia where the Bigfoots are in the
You
mountains.
need to
I don't
borrow
know.
one of the
You
big
said there's no skunk ape?
Yeah, I don't. Brittany gets on me all the time about this, but I talk to a lot of locals, especially a lot of them that grown up here. It's a lot of like, and they're like, we've always had that myth, but nowadays Florida's not dense enough not to be able to utilize, stuff from the sky. It's not like when we were in like British Columbia or Alaska. Like Green Swamp's dense, but and they can't live underground in the Everglades because it's water 3 inches
It's all
down.
water.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a tough sell. So I guess I'll retract what I said because I like the bullshit with Brittany. But yes, there may be something out there like to an extent, or it's probably from our side
Florida
of things,
man.
Yeah, if you think about from our side of things, where me and Justin come from, I'm from the animal trade, and even before me, during the animal trade, there was a lot of primates that were caught, trapped, or at least let loose. I believe that we still, in some parts, we do obviously know we have Reese monkeys. I mean, that's from Tarzan, and I think there's a possibility that there could be something out there, chimpanzee, orang, loose, that we're just unaware of somewhere, or it's moved around, or it's not there anymore, and it was sighted, because it's not uncommon for that to happen. Case in point, when they talked about the quote unquote Brittany, the Bigfoot attack at that ranch. Where were we? Were we in Canada? British Columbia?
Yes. That
Right.
was in Canada.
So
Mhm.
the story was, Brooke, that this Bigfoot
the
charged this
house.
woman and her kids at the house.
Mhm.
But guess what? She lived right by the railroad tracks. And Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey, frequently went through there doing shows. And there were animal rights activists back then. And there was cases where animals were released because they felt bad for them being locked up. Now, they were carrying elephants. They were carrying gorilla. They were carrying chimpanzee. They were carrying tiger. If somebody let a gorilla out there, it's going to be scared. It's going to be loose. It's going to charge. It's going to see you. It's going to come up on people. Just wants to be, they misread it as an attack because nobody died, right? They misread it as an animal approaching them because they've never seen that in their life. So you have to understand that there's a lot to the stories as it goes on and on and on. And that could have been right there exactly what that was at that point. Because they talk about how it sits and its knees were above its arms and it sits down. You know how gorillas sit all day? And every account that we talked to about there, it was like a gorilla. They said had a big face like a gorilla, and it would sit down on its hindquarters with its shoulders between its legs, like its knees were up. That's how gorillas sit, right? And that was all the stories we got, even to the very one that was done, whatever it was, 15 years ago, Brittany, or whatever, when the guy was fishing or whatever.
Mhm.
He said it was like a giant
That was
gorilla.
a couple of years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, he said it was like a giant gorilla. So there's that too. Not to say that there's not Sasquatch out there.
Well, have you ever like investigated in the panhandle of Florida?
No, because I don't do that kind of stuff. Brittany
I was
might
gonna
have.
say,
I never have.
I
The
totally
panhandle's different.
understand.
That's
It
different,
is.
though. That's different.
Well,
It's
yeah,
it's northern. There's different territory
it's
up
still
there.
part of Florida, you know.
Yeah,
So-
It is.
Okay, we give
Well,
one
in
for Brooke on
Alabama,
that. Brooke, you got one on that. But I'm just saying, like, if you think about the Everglades, I mean,
yeah.
there's nothing big enough to condense it. You could fly over with a hang glider. You can see through there. They hog hunt that way. They
What
can't
if it's
hide.
interdimensional and it's not there all the
Oh my
time?
god!
What if
That's
it's on a
not-
spaceship offshore hanging out with the Grays?
That's what
okay?
people say, and
Say it's a
I don't
space
know
goat.
that I can go with that.
You don't know what he does in his free time. When
That's
he's
true.
not, you know, knocking on trees and stuff for us.
Crochets.
Like, you don't know what he's doing.
He's panhandling in the Florida Keys, but I think
That's
Yes.
probably
in the
true.
panhandle.
if you are someone that subscribes to that story, it's possible. But I don't. I know this interdimensional, Shaka Hakwa walks between the line. That's like Tales from the Dark Side shit. I try to base more things on scientific evidence of really looking for something. Like, look, there's evidence of this here. Now, listen, there's been animals found in Florida doing research like that really aren't supposed to be here, that were escapes.
Wait,
or
we have
they thought to
invasive
not be here.
species here in Florida.
Right. So we do that stuff and we find them. But as far as that goes, I mean, maybe the panhandle now is a different story. Because yes, it's funny because I was
Some
coming through the
weird stuff
panhandle.
out
I came
there.
back from New Orleans this week and I drove. And I came back through the panhandle and it was really rolling hills and very dense and woodland and deep.
Mhm.
So could there be something? Probably. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
but I don't know
I mean-
about this skunk ape in the Everglades. I can't wrap my head around
Getting
that.
smaller and smaller.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
you would probably.
Well, they could be migrating out. It's not to say maybe they were never there,
What's that,
but with the way that like
What's
Florida
up, Jeff?
Hey,
just
Jeff.
changed. And like the
Yeah.
last look at the
That's
last
what
10
I
years
agree.
with the building. So it could have been, you can look on maps and see like the BFRO or the mapping project where there's been sightings, but it's been like 20, 30 years since there's been one in that area. So they
Right,
could have
and-
moved.
And that's true. And my only problem is they have fantasized Bigfoot so much that everybody wants 5 minutes of fame. Okay. So everybody's seen something. So it makes somebody who has seen something so uncredible because it's too much. You know what I mean?
Like the
Because
sighting
people make
itself.
shit up. Yeah. People have made so much shit up that people who have a credible sighting or something that
Yeah.
they can't understand. Like there are people like Jeff and I have seen some weird shit when we were out looking for pythons out in the Everglades. I'm like,
Mhm.
we need to keep going. Either that was an ancient Native American spirit or that guy does not want us here and he lives here. Let's go. We've been there. I don't know what it was, but then everybody makes up another story. So what happened to us was real. But by the time you tell your story, 900 super phony one. Oh yeah, he had goggles on. We think he might have been
Exactly.
robbing some of the local sheds and wearing the stuff. And he was carrying a shovel,
It's
dragging a
interesting you say
woman. I'm like,
that. My friend
right.
Mary, well, I mean, not Sarah, but well, whatever, I already said
Stop
it.
exploring.
Hey,
She's
exploring.
kind of had that theory of like
Noah.
as technology's grown, the reports from Bigfoot have also grown with it. And sometimes like the legend of an area kind of grows, like you said, like especially what's that one plantation that's really popular in Louisiana? And when you look back at the story of it, it's changed over time, the ghost who's haunted it. Like it went from being I think like a man to now it's an indentured servant there. And apparently like she never even existed. And yet people are saying, oh no, I saw this lady and she did this horrible thing and now she haunts the grounds. And it's just like not true, but it's like evolved and changed with like social media and stuff like that. And my one friend, she was just like, you can't call out bullshit because how do you say to someone like, oh,
You just do, bro.
easy.
That's why I like to come in.
Direct.
You're
Well,
full
and
of
a lot
shit.
of those places use these stories to sell tickets to make money for the tours and the museums and stuff too, which is like it's super tough to try and like, well, that's not real, but the public doesn't care. They'll still go.
Well, first of
Yeah.
all, I would do it like Brooke. I'd say, I
Well
would just
put,
like
Noah.
to tell you tonight that you're absolutely wrong.
By the way,
No,
I
but-
sent you Delilah to your text message.
That's
Oh,
so cool.
perfect.
You're going to have it, Delilah. Listen, I just had a great conversation with Ricky Rocket. For those of you tuning it or whatever don't know, Ricky Rocket's actually really into researching things very unknown. Like there's so many stories to things. And he said he understands that everybody goes in with a flashlight or whatever and they do their thing and they talk to spirits. But I want to know the definite science behind this. So he went to a place. I'm not going to say what place it was. If we ever have him back on, we'll talk about it. And he said, they told him, oh my God, we hear children crying and there's babies and women that walk here moaning for their children. And she comes in and they have all this stuff. And he goes, well, I want to see the research. Who was killed here? Nobody was ever killed on that property. He found one death. It was an accident. It was on the flagpole in the front of the property. The gentleman was 27 years old. He climbed up there to repair the flag. He fell and impaled himself on one of his tools. He died there.
Wow.
Right. Which led into other things, which led into finding a skull, which led into a Ted Bundy theory, which we'll get into that one day. We will really get into that. But that's what he said. We go in there and they've done so many different stories about this stuff that you don't have to type that if you don't want to. You can say it, Brooke.
Okay.
If I was to respond to you by typing, it would come back in 5 areas. It would come from boom, 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 boom. No, I'm just saying you can talk to them directly. That's why people like coming in here because they actually want to talk to you and hear from you. So when you do the research of that, then you find that really never happened there, and people were making stuff up. And that so think of all the people that paid to go on a tour there. If a show that he was working on releases like that, and they talk about that, you feel duped.
Yeah.
It just puts even more doubt. And then someone who's a doubter is going to be a doubter because I don't think anybody knows, right? We just don't. And so the most we can do is dig and dig and dig.
Yeah.
Now, Jeff Bell is really interesting, Brooke, because he is in charge of the property. So he takes us into the Ma Barker house.
Love you.
So
Jeff.
he's the one that takes us in overnight. And yes, things were literally flying through that house. I'm not going to say there wasn't.
And beds did break. There's
and the bed
proof
broke.
of that on Instagram.
Brittany was interviewing someone on there and they were sitting there and it just said, she asked a question, is there anybody in the room? And the legs just flew out from under the bed. It was either perfect coincidence or
make yourself known was what he said.
And it said, boom.
And it was just
like,
the whole bed broke.
Like that. Nobody was making it up. That place is actually really a fun place to go into. So yes, active. Jeff, I do want to touch on that because that place is cool. If you've never been in, have you been in the Ma Barker house, Brooke?
No.
Oh my God. And
I'm
Brooke
waiting to go with you guys.
Brooke is the host of the Dark Florida podcast. And I think she should go there and do a show on it because it's right up your alley. Yep. I think you could tell the story. I also think the story is told better coming from a woman than I do a man. And the reason I say that is the story's about Ma. And I don't think you can talk about your children, how you feel about your children as a mother who is defending them with a gun, I might add, against the police. And when females go in there, they can almost become Ma Barker and understand maybe she wasn't doing the right thing, but these are my babies. There's nobody here. There was no men there. There was nothing. It was just her and her boys. And one of them, I think, was special needs. And so I think when females really get involved in that story, it's more close to them, if you will, I think. I could be wrong, Brittany, but I just feel like.
Well, I hadn't experienced that house.
I just think women are very close to that because that's one of the first badass women on record. And that was the longest standoff with the FBI ever in a shootout. And it was with a woman. And I think that you don't think about that. So it's when a woman gets to tell that story, I just think it's cool. Don't you think? That's a Brittany and Brooke thing to tell.
I love that house. I think because we've been there so many times now that it's like an odd connection to that house.
That's right, Noah.
And the experience I had, like coming from a woman's perspective of dealing with that and being completely, the whole house was covered. Like she could not escape. She knew death was coming. And how do you protect your kids from that? She couldn't. Like it was what an intense feeling and moment for her. And then to have to watch your kids die in front of you, knowing you're Ma Barker, you're an outlaw, like, and you couldn't even save them. It's an intense feeling.
The story's all tied into an alligator with one eye, which I thought was looking really cool, man. That was
Gave
really cool.
It away.
So that was really cool. And
alert.
Yeah, so there's a really cool thing how it's like, tied in like that. Jeff, it's a neat place too.
I'd really like to go.
You would love it.
I'd still like to go.
Well, what's interesting?
It's really cool. I love it.
So when I met you guys and you shared that story with me, and you're like, have you ever been? I was like, no. And you're like, oh my gosh, like we got to go. coincidentally enough, right in the area that's in the Okalawaha area, I was
Uh-huh.
traveling through there a lot over that weekend because I have friends who live there, and I was traveling back and forth from the conference and the Airbnb. And every time, because it's on a lake, because I looked it up, and every time we came through that stretch of road right there, our GPS would like go crazy. And I'm not kidding. Like we were literally going in circles. Like I can't explain it. And I have
Well,
a very good sense of direction, I'd like to think. And it wasn't just mine. This happened on several different occasions. Like on a different occasion, we were following my one friend and she pulls off to the side and goes, "What the fuck? It's doing it again." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And she's like, "No, I'm not kidding." Like we were literally driving in circles, like right on the top of that lake.
which is interesting. Here, you want to hear another story about that? That house is
Yeah.
not in its original location.
Nope.
Oh,
They
really?
lifted it off its plantation and floated it across to the other side. If I'm correct, Jeff, I believe that's what happened. If you're still on here, let us know. But that was moved. The house was moved. The
Oh,
people who
wow.
bought the land didn't want it on there anymore. Why? I have
Huh.
no idea. But they actually
Maybe
floated it
holes.
to the other side. So I don't know. I think that was. So there's a lot. Maybe it's yes. Jeff said yes.
Wow.
Yep. So they moved it. So, there may be
Interesting.
some uproar. If it was my place, like say if me and Jeff had a cool place there,
Yeah, it was like we were
and
going
then we
crazy.
got shot up by the police, and then they moved our little cool pad that we were in forever, I'd probably be haunting the place too. If you want to think about it that way.
Well, have you guys ever seen the show? Remember Once Upon a Time? How they're like
Yep.
stuck in the town? It was
Yep.
like that. Like we were like,
And you
how
couldn't
did
leave.
we were like, how did we get back here? And it kept happening. And
Yeah.
it was so crazy. And I never get lost.
Right. So you don't think that everybody was getting hyped up that you put yourself in like a parallel frame of thinking to where you all did the same thing? Like, so you subconsciously programmed yourself to go in a big circle because you all believe that could happen. I'm just saying there's a
No.
word for that. And I don't know what it is.
Well,
Mass
it's like we didn't
psychosis.
realize
Mass
Yeah.
hypnosis.
Yeah. Right.
maybe.
Oh,
I,
no, is that the one about like if you take your car down there, like she appears in the vehicle with you? Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's like
Yeah,
Disney,
yeah, exactly.
like the Haunted
in-
Mansion, man.
There's something about her being
I was there
like
yesterday,
people
Jeff. I
see
rode that
her,
ride.
like they'll
Nice.
see her walking underneath the bridge, or like if you have your car there, she'll appear in the car. Yeah, that's the one. It's a freaking weird one. The stories that come from that bridge about her, no, I'm good. It's freaking crazy.
See, I have two theories on that.
Yeah, no, that one's
You
that's a good one.
can really be experiencing something.
I don't know what to think.
Or you can all get together and you're so enlightened and heightened by wanting to see something that you manifest it. I'm sorry, that's
Hold
very
on.
possible.
hold
True.
on. I think this segues us into what we wanted to talk about.
We are. That's what I'm trying to do, Brooke. That's what I'm trying to do.
You're okay. You're killing
So,
it.
anyways, we'll let Brooke tell you that story because she brought this up
You're
to me.
killing it.
But that's what I'm saying. She and I were talking, but I think that you can manifest something. And that's when I said to Brooke, and she said, "Well, have you ever heard of the, And I was like, absolutely have never heard of that. And that's really cool. So, what's going on there, buddy? It's good to see you, Mr. Sean. But yeah, please enlighten me. Can we say what it is? What is the word again? There's two words. Say the, you want to do the real one and then the scientific. I can't wait.
Sure. So homunculi or a homunculus. Are you familiar with that?
Go on.
I am not.
Go on.
Okay. Okay. So basically,
I've never heard Brittany talk about it either. So I'm shocked here, Brittany. I was blown away.
So a homunculi is kind of like an octopi, so that's plural, and it dates back to 16th century alchemy. And basically, a homunculus is when you get together like alchemic components and physical ones, and you mix it, and you can create a being of your making. And same thing with like
Gollum.
manifesting it.
Right, Jeff? It's homunculi,
like-
bro. That shit is crazy.
Yeah, but if you like harness your energy, so like a collective energy on something, that can create a homunculus or a homunculi.
So that's what I mean.
Being the
So that would be almost like in the same theory context of Slender Man, which was believed to be a conscious effort being brought to life, as well as like the Slender and a
Right.
couple other entities that were manifested through consciousness, like all of
Yes.
a sudden appeared. Because those are we
Right.
have those case studies. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
See, now that I can believe, Jeff. I can get into that a little bit. Like, wow, I think a group of people can put their minds together and manifest. I mean, because you can take a strong person in life, right? And they can just fight all kinds of doubt and they manifest whatever they want and their life is good.
What's the other one called?
Then you have someone who's always struggling, right? And they're always talking about they'll put a positive meme up and they're always talking about how positive, but inside they're struggling. And that right there is what stops you from going forward, right? Doesn't matter what you have to believe what you're saying.
Energy.
Yeah, you have to believe what you're saying. Like I'm guilty of it too. I try to push on, and do normal, and then something just goes, "Hey, look at this motherfucker. Hey, look at this one. Hey, you owe this. Hey, fuck you." And you're like, you know what? Fuck this shit.
You're
Trying to be
just have a
positive
really
here.
eloquent way of putting things. I love it.
But I mean, it's so true though. So like, if you have a little bit of disbelief, but once you can get around the concept of understanding that you can create whatever you want, and nobody has power over you, and the only reason you suffer is because you're giving something power over you. I don't care if it's a bill, a cigarette, an ex. It can be anything. Once you do that, you create that doubt. Your consciousness now blends with your sub, and that's what you're creating. That's the reality you're creating for yourself. Now, we all know that when we've been in the right place at the right time and things start falling and we feel really positive, things really flow. And then you start to see that magic box open and stuff really happens. But the minute something doesn't go your way and you give into that doubt, it always seems to fall back to that. So I think when you told me about the homunculus, that's exactly what I think that is. 100%.
Well, and alchemy has been like in the headlines lately. They just turned lead to gold. I believe CERN did, using alchemical properties. So if alchemy works in the way that it's been reported over history, what if Bigfoot is a homunculus? And it's because
people
brought those properties together and created that being. Yeah.
That means they created the Lechusa too, and I don't want to see that.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of other creatures that if they brought that, I don't want to see it.
Yeah. So it's basically like beings with those supernatural traits. Yeah.
So you look at things like movies, Jeff, for instance, like Alien.
Classic.
The concept of that alien was about 4 people coming up with something that they believe could work scientifically, an exoskeleton that was not for us. But I think that imagine putting something like that loose. We all looked in the woods and think we saw something that we didn't see.
Yeah, that'd be one of the worst.
Brain said it was there.
Alien, Predator.
Yes.
And who does a lot of work on it is his name is Juan from the Juan on Juan podcast. And
I've seen that podcast.
She asked, I've never seen it, but I heard it was funny.
He goes deep into the homunculus over there. It's like his bread and butter.
They're good. They're good.
He's really passionate about it. So if people want to learn more, I know he's put out a ton of research that he's done into it on it.
So Noah said it's like, I'm gonna try to say it right. Guriodan. I'm not sure how it's spelled or even what it means, but he said insane period, and it's a really interesting case too. So is that like another crazy creature like the homunculus? So that means if you want to go as a homunculus for Halloween, you can be whatever you want and call yourself a homunculus.
Yeah, like Pokemon.
Oh,
like
man.
Pikachu. Pikachu could be like a homunculi.
Oh, I got it. I'm trying to figure
out. I believe
the
lizard man of Scape Oro Swamp is an evolved dinosaur.
Bother me.
That's kind of an interesting theory. There's cool stuff out there, obviously, that we don't know about. I mean, also people's perception. I like to get into this a lot, especially coming from an animal side of things. People call us, we got a 15-foot alligator back here in the yard back there, bothered Agnes, and we go to see, and it's like, yeah, a 4-foot alligator, but to them it was 15. Like, because their perception and fear is different. Your perception and fear is different than when you're clear-headed.
You can call him the white demon.
In panic mode.
Not his name.
Brittany, stop talking to the spirits while we're doing a broadcast.
No, I'm trying to find, because this particular entity surfaced several years back, like between 13 and 14, on a trail camera. And then like this craze started having them. They put it into cryptids, and it shouldn't have been in cryptids. Like, I don't believe it should have been.
I hate trail cameras.
It was labeled, as I'm telling you. And then it fell into it's a fallen angel. And then it fell into its own entity. And then there were individuals that came forward and said, no, it's part of the consciousness collection that this creature was created. So it falls in line with what Brooke is saying, but I'm trying to get the name of it for our audience and I can't remember because it blew up all over the internet, but different names. But there was one in particular because not long, like a year ago, my friend Dave Schrader reached out and he was like, hey, I have a question. I could go back through Texas. Anyway, and he was like, has there been any recent sightings or anything isolated to this particular, and I can't think of the name right now. And I was like,
Is it
oh
the knot deer?
no, not the knot. The knot deer is just a deformed poor deer in the middle of the woods. Not the knot
that's
deer.
what I'm saying. And then 100 years from now, it's going to be some crazy man-eating deer that wears
Troy,
beaver
the
pelts.
knot deer that was captured, right? So you know how like deer's eyes are on the sides of its head? They were straight on. So like the deformity caused this poor deer to have like straight on eyes.
Gave him a predator profile.
Yeah. So when they capture it, they're like, oh, it's a skinwalker. And then like, no, it's called a knot deer.
You do. I try to explain to people
like,
when people want to talk about eyeballs, if you think about let's just take a goat's eyes, right? Does anybody ever realize that the pupil is very long and rectangular? Because they see in fisheye. They can see all the way back to their ass looking forward.
Because they're wicked. They gotta watch everything.
But that's what I'm trying to tell you. So that itself is really cool. But think about that. So sometimes animals like that are born and it looks different. Like they'll be born and their pupils are round and like, oh my God, this is a fucking sacred being. I'm like, no, it's a tard. That's all it is. It's a retarded.
The eyes are awful close together.
Yeah, they drank. The mother was drinking when it gave birth to
fetal alcohol
fetal syndrome. I like when you run into those people in public like that. It's weird. They're just, you get scared of them. Like, I didn't know your eyes could sit that far in the back of your head. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of that happens and it sparks these stories. So like if you were to send someone like that into the woods, right, that looked like that, you could create a monster out of that person. And over time it grows.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure.
The beast of Gobadon is how it's spelled. I was believed by witness in a werewolf attacked. Alleged beast took place between 1764 and 1767.
It actually has a statue in France in honor of that attack. Mm-hmm. There's an actual like bronze
see, I love it.
statue.
See, Noah brought in some facts. The theory is that the beast was a hyena that escaped because nobody would have in 1764.
No one without
unless you lived in that area, you wouldn't know what a hyena was. Now you got this animal that's got a tall front end, a low rear end, looks like a werewolf.
Looking mohawk on the top.
Which is where werewolves could have come from too. Let's just.
Hyenas are scary looking.
So, what do you guys think about vampires? Are vampires real? What camp are you in?
Like actual, I need blood to live, don't see myself in the mirror, sleep in a coffin vampires, or super
a bunch of weirdos that dye their hair, drink human blood, and call them something. I don't really know.
Like, well, you guys were talking about France, and it just like made me think of like Nosferatu, and then like Transylvania and all that. So, well, and then you hear the stories coming out that there's vampires in New Orleans, and then they're like people will meet someone who's really charming and has like is just kind of mysterious, and then they'll be like, you need to invite me into your apartment, or they can't come into the next bar with them, or something weird. Like, what do you think about that?
Because we're in a video game.
Vampires.
I think that if there were vampires, they certainly wouldn't let it be known, because they'd be hunted and, probably deported in this certain climate that we're in, back to Transylvania. I think that the way to know somebody is a vampire, is them not telling you they're a vampire, because if somebody truly was, the last thing they'd want to do is let people know one way or the other.
I think that there are animals that strictly live off blood. Could there be a bipedal person, a bipedal hominid that could be that type of thing that works, or could it be a supernatural thing? I guess nothing is impossible anymore. Really.
I think any person
I think Jeff like said it would be laid low. You wouldn't know who they were.
No.
Or they're among you and you have no idea who you're sitting with.
Yeah.
Could be talking to one right now. You never know.
It's true.
Hey, listen, my friend and I went to get kombucha, and we went to this little spot, and the guy behind the counter was so chill. I mean, super chill, like, and just really nice, like on a different level. And when we left, she's like, he's a vampire, right? And I was like, stop it, because she's like a sensitive. And she's like, no, I'm serious. Like, he's a vampire. I was like, are you being for real right now? And she was like, I'm serious. And I was like, okay.
Like,
he was really nice. He was a really nice guy.
Brittany's really nice too.
Yeah.
Brooke, you're very nice. Listen to you talk. You're like, hi, welcome to the dark floor.
That's true. She could summon people back to a lair.
Right, so I'm like, oh my. So if anybody's going to be using their voice, and Would you like to go back to
For
this bar with me
a
tonight?
smooth dinner. Yeah. Yeah.
So Brooke
Yeah.
is the vampire in this episode. And if
Some
you
people
are,
might argue
don't
that.
kill me yet. And if you do, just bite me because I'm good with that. I'll hang out for a while, watch my family die.
Mm.
No, it'll be like Twilight, and we'll just create like a gang of vampires.
Being a
With
vampire.
diamond skin.
Mhm.
Yeah, I like more
You
like
know-
Bram Stoker.
You know what I think is funny is like
True Blood.
it amazes me what like in the supernatural spectrum of everything, how people will believe in certain aspects of things, but not others. Like they'll be like, oh yeah, I could see where this is possible. But then when you bring up the idea of like a vampire, people are like, oh, absolutely not. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, none of us.
But I
I'm not
believe in an
saying that.
interdimensional. No, I'm not saying you. I'm saying in general. And then it's like, but they believe in an interdimensional being that's popping in and out of our atmosphere all the
That
time.
looks
It's
like a monkey.
right. Or it was dropped here by an alien race as workers to mine the mining here on the planet. Like there's tons of theories out there that are just like mind blowing. And I don't hate on any of them. But if you're going to be open to believing these theories, then you really have to be
Right.
open to it all. And you need to be able to willingly accept all accounts, whether you believe or don't believe, but you have to accept them if you're willing to say, I believe in these. Like you just can't close yourself off. Like create a new theory or a new avenue for us to travel down. Don't keep repeating the same ones. Like I get tired of the same theories. Like why
But it's
can't we level
interesting,
up?
yeah. It's interesting where people draw the line. I like even in the Bigfoot world, they draw the line with their own theories and things like that. But like paranormal or things will happen, like lights or other things, supernatural things will occur. But like they're like, no, we just we believe in Bigfoot only, and that other stuff isn't happening. And it's like, what?
It
Yeah,
doesn't
it's
make a
weird
whole
where
lot of
people
sense.
draw the line.
Mhm.
It always gets me when people believe in whatever their version of God is, but don't believe in ghosts or anything else. You know, there's one
Right.
ghost, only one.
Right. Exactly. I agree with you there. Yeah. How can you go so far into something and not? And that's a big, for me, I think if you follow, and I won't trash it because I won't do that. I'm sure my mom's watching, but if you believe in something like that, it's very hard to do what, you know, the type of work that Brooke does or Brittany does, because that'd be a group of people that you really can't take that to if they have to live, because they're like, there's no way, because, you know, my God said that you get to go to the heaven. Doesn't matter which God it is. And they say that. So it's very tough, but I think there's a whole lot more to it. I mean, if you really took the Bible and read it, there's some shit in there that looks ghostly and wizardy and alien-y.
Yeah, what part of the Bible is Gandalf in again?
Exactly. Like, I'll turn that staff to a snake. Noah, I'm the only one that can sit with the ark. I know I was found in a river and y'all don't know where I came from, but let me turn that. Let me split the Red Sea. I mean, there's a lot of art going on there, dude. Jesus walked around turning water to wine and shit. There was a whole bunch of stuff in there. So
Yeah, definitely some creative license in the Bible.
Very true, Noah.
But when it comes to talking about that, it's that was just a theory. That was just a comparison.
Well, you know,
Oh,
I
come
see-
on.
Terrible.
But here's the thing. I think that a lot of Christians, I think that we're
Exactly.
seeing more come out supporting. I mean, look at Tony Merkel. Tony Merkel is a Christian paranormal podcaster who is also exploring his own ministry right now that he feels like he was called to do, but he firmly believes in Bigfoot, Dogman,
Well, that
aliens, the
explains it
whole
right
thing.
there.
And
You've
so
already explained it.
I think that there really is. And look at Blurry Creatures is one of the number one, the confessionals and Blurry Creatures are probably like the top, like Bigfoot paranormal podcasts. And they're both Christian podcasts. Like they're like rooted in faith. So I really feel like a lot of Christians are attuned to what's going on. And I think that maybe that satanic panic era and like the 90s kind of Christian is fading, is dissolving. And and I'm sure it still exists in some circles, but I'm seeing
like that
a
theory.
lot more
Oh, it
Christians
exists.
who
It does
Or-
exist. Troy gets it every day.
It exists, dude. 100%.
Yeah,
But I agree with what you're saying. And I want to piggyback on that, Brigitte, because I do agree with what you're saying, because when I did my research into who has funded in the last 20 years, just in a looking back in 20 years, who's funded the expeditions overseas for alleged cryptid accounts? They've been backed by churches, not by any scientific lab. Churches. And they're like, no, we want to believe, like, we believe in this. We believe in the idea that certain animals existed, certain things happen, and certain things coexisted at the same time against what the scientific community is pushing. And so they literally are the ones funding these expeditions. And I found that fascinating because some of these churches don't have a lot of money, but they're like, I'm willing to fund your expedition because you believe in it this much and we believe in it with you. And I think that's great. Where the science community has a hard time with that is because they are such a hierarchy of a name, and that when they put their name on something, if it discredits them at all, then they lose so much funding to their laboratory, to their work, to their, and so they feel they have too much to lose, as to where church feels like I have nothing to lose. I'm always getting blasted by everybody. So who gives a shit? If we find a pterodactyl, hey, guess what? Our church now just got labeled, but
we're putting
I find that fascinating. And like, I remember when I got into this really heavy, I remember I was when I remember talking to you a couple of times about being in the green room, Brooke, but being in the green room on one of these sets, it was up in Decatur working on Drop Dead Diva and Vampire Diaries. I was in the green room and somebody came up to me and they're like, I overheard you talking to somebody in the green room about the paranormal because she was having a haunting in her house. And I was just talking to her about it. And he goes, but I also thought you said you were a Christian. And he kind of gave me an attitude. And I was like, I am. It doesn't matter. Something created everything. And whatever else is going on in the world, there's some explanation to it. It's one and the same to me, man. And he just was like, then you're not really a Christian. I was like, no, you're being judgmental. That's not a place for you, son. Like, I'll worry about that when I get to the other side. Okay. When my time with Anubis comes, I'll let you know how that goes. Like, I'm like, what the heck?
Well, there are dogs in heaven.
But I'm telling you, Anubis is there. Okay. But it was just interesting because that is some of the mindset of that. And I'm like, that's being closed-minded. If you're willing to believe in God as a creator, then he didn't limit himself to creating certain things then, right?
He sure
so that's why
did.
I'm like, according to some people, but I was just like, I'm very open-minded, and
holy
I think
water
that's how
cannons and all kinds of shit
to be, I'm like, he didn't want us to be closed-minded.
Well,
I think that speaks more about their judgment and how they have evolved in their journey more than it does anything else.
You mean how they
think that
digressed
somebody
in their journey?
can't exactly, or just never progressed, like that somebody can't be both.
Well, here,
it's not your place to judge.
Let's talk about two things. This is what has always been a fun topic for me: the pentagram and the swastika. Okay. The pentagram, and I actually went back into my files here, so I have it in front of my face, so I know I didn't say anything wrong. Or originated in 3000 BCE, right? It was used as a symbol of protection and good fortune, and in later periods also symbolized the 5 plans, which means for growth and human growth, love, protection from evil, and prosperity. That's what this is right here.
A lot like gargoyles, correct?
That's what a pentagram is. Okay. But now if someone turns my show on, which they always do, and they see this, we're going to see you on the battlefield, you Satanist bastard. You're supporting the devil. They have no idea where it comes from. Then you take and you go back at it again.
Straightforward.
This is a good one. The swastika was used in history in Nazism, right? That's not where it originated from.
No, Japan.
Yep. And it also went beyond that as the rotation of the sun. It was a symbol to talk about the rotation of the sun. That's where it came from. And it was used in cultures across Eurasia and beyond, often representing good consciousness, good luck, and the movement of the sun. That was the swastika. But look where it sits now.
But that's because
someone stole a brand.
Somebody took an image, exactly, and made it evil. And so now that image represents that evil, even though that's not at all what it was designed for.
But hold on a second.
Once it's out.
We got to go all back. And this jars everybody. And I won't say a lot about it because you can do your own research. Why don't you figure out why Hitler used that emblem in the first place? It had nothing to do. It had nothing to do with why he chose that. Nothing. What they tell you now. But it had nothing to do why he first took that emblem. Right. So it's interesting to me that manufactured fear, manufactured hate, manufactured faith, manufactured everything. So you really have to question. 100% of everything that you're told to look into. And yes, Jeff and I dealt a lot in the satanic panic. You
On the
couldn't
good
go
side.
anywhere without going to hell. Oh, you're listening to Bon Jovi? Well, he had sex before he was married, so you're going to hell. I'm like,
Oh, they used to have like record
just like the
burnings
song.
and shit. It was awful.
oh my God.
It was awful.
Iron Maiden, holy smoke. Great song, great purpose. And I often thought that the record labels were in bed with this because they knew that it would fire everybody up, and they know Christians don't steal. So they would go to all the markets and they would buy all the albums and burn them, so they were making them platinum. The minute they banned the Two
Yeah.
Live Crew was platinum.
Mhm.
For those of you that don't know who the Two Live Crew is, I know you do, Sean. I see you here. I know you know who the Two Live Crew is, but not many of us besides Jeff. I mean,
Man.
but
I know these bands because of you, Troy.
I'm just
growing
saying,
up with you.
but that's what she brought it up. She said during the panic, and it was that
Yeah.
time of
Yeah.
control, and that was
Yeah.
a new monster to use. So they almost, in essence, recreated the devil,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
To scare everybody now. Now we got a new devil to be scared of, you know? Oh my God.
But you know what?
Oh,
you know what's-
exactly.
You know what's really funny to me though is like this is how okay. I'm not
That's
gonna
right,
say this
Noah.
because it's
It's
kind
great.
of
There's
offensive
so
to certain
much on
people.
it.
But in regards to like, let's just go to the Vatican, like in the priests.
They know some
division.
shit.
They do. And I have a friend that is a priest, and we've talked about this. He's very open to the supernatural, actually very much likes
like that
talking
topic,
about it
Noah.
because he lives in Louisiana. But he himself has even said that he has talked with other priests and other orders, and they very much believe in spirits because of the orders in which that they have to work in, especially within exorcisms. And they're like, there's spirits, there's ghostly spirits, there's entities like that. Like, we're very aware of them, not demons, like spiritual energies and spiritual beings that they've had contact with, that they've spoken with, and they've been in presence with, and these hierarchy priests. And so he's like, when the people talk about like the church, like the Catholic church, the Catholic priests, they don't believe in spirits. It's not true. We absolutely do. And we find it fascinating. That's why we're in the practice and the order in which we are. And I just think that that's just rad. So again, it's like just the lack of knowledge of the general public.
Well,
They make these assumptions and assume because they think they know what the church is and what the priests
Well,
do. And the priests are like,
the
no,
whole
we're actually
purpose-
pretty cool in some respect.
isn't
not
that the
all,
whole isn't that
but
the whole
some.
purpose of exorcising evil demons or even spirits? Demons or spirits? I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of
Yeah.
exorcising?
Yeah. Well, that's the
And
thing. Like,
I
they have
think-
orders for that.
This is what I think about that. I think our perception of what Catholicism is and what it really is are way two different things.
100%. And I also
They
think
are
don't
a-
want us
they
to
are a
have all
government.
the information.
They are a government, and they have been at war for thousands of years. And you had, even Judaism and all that. They go back and they were protecting different things all the way
The
along
Vatican
the line.
is a sovereign state. It's its own country.
There
it's
you
the
go.
world's smallest country.
Okay. So
And-
the way they
you
use
can
it here in
walk it pretty
America,
fast in a day.
I'm pretty sure it's got the largest population of Catholics in the world too.
that's what I'm trying to say. Think about it though. Like if you
Canada.
guys think about it, I think it was
Mhm.
something different. Like they have armed guards. You can't get into the Vatican.
The Swiss Guard.
No. And you know what's really funny is on their tours, because my friend went on a tour on her anniversary and she sent me pictures. She was like, have you been to the Vatican? I'm like, no, it's on my to-do list. I want to go. I want to be present on those grounds just because I know what's up.
That's right, Noah.
And she sent me pictures and the sculptures and just some of the photographic stuff like that was detailed in like tapestries and in paintings from different centuries and periods that they had that's in their collection that or was a part of the tour in just some areas. Like she sent them to me and she's like, what do you make of this? Like they're literally showing this as part of history. And yet we've never seen anything like this. Like some things look like they had dinosaurs in them from a different period. And it's within the Vatican, And so she was sending me these pictures from the tour. And I was like, God, I want to go so bad, like right now. Because there were so many questions going through my head. But I'm like, I know they have stuff and they will have stuff that nobody will ever know about because of their
And the
hierarchy.
catacombs. That's where I want to walk through.
Oh, me too.
The catacombs of the
Yes.
Vatican. Can you
Come
imagine?
on, Brooke.
Can you
Oh.
find
Their
that?
archive.
Yes.
It'd
You just need to get like those Ray-Ban Meta sunglasses and just like record everything.
Girl, they pocket everybody that has to come through there. They're like, you don't
Oh,
keep
yeah.
to
They're your
You know
glasses.
all the big secrets.
I'd
They
be like,
know
"Why,
what's
I'm gonna
up."
be blind.
They're like, our people made them.
Somebody just needs to try it. I just need someone to try it. Troy, you want to go?
I know.
I
I
would
know
go.
a guy. I know a guy.
Yeah.
I would try to do whatever I could.
Yeah, we'll suit you up with the sunglasses and see if it works.
Troy has a pair
Are you
that do
kidding?
that.
Troy will be
I
on
have-
my book with you on
You
like
have a
20
pair that
minutes.
record.
I do.
Mhm.
There you go.
He's our
It's
guy.
kind of fun. You go out there and see some stuff, but you have to tape the light off because the light's always on. It's for safety and protection of others. So you have
There's
to
a
cover.
light,
Yes,
like a recording light.
yes, a little white light that comes on that lets
Pay
you
no
know.
attention to the light.
Yes, no, that's true.
That's so
you have
funny.
to cover it. So you have to put a little thing over it and kind of cover it, or the
Oh,
light will
man.
pop on, and then they can see you. Some of the popes are really awful people, especially the early popes of God who committed incest and orgies and persecuted you and Jews, killed. Yep, we don't talk about that growing up. We didn't learn about that stuff. We didn't learn about that. We didn't learn about that. But I mean,
some really mystical spiritual shit. Look at some of the Talmud and some of the ancient Jewish texts, like the Dybbuk and golems,
Oh, Dybbuk.
stuff like that. It's really heavy duty. Scary.
yeah,
Gotta love
that's
the
pretty
Dybbuk box,
wild.
Jeff.
That's really wild to think about.
Yep. Yep.
Been more than one of those bad boys.
So that's what I mean. I don't know shit. Nobody does. And there's some weird stuff going on out there. And the fun part is looking for it. I mean, that's all I can think about. You know what I mean? Like the fun part is actually just getting out there and looking for that stuff.
Just even being able to
There you
like
go.
get some kind of eyes on it, about the stuff that they don't tell anybody, even just in the White House too. Can you imagine knowing all the secrets that the president knows?
Yes. All the in that White House. Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, like what really happened to Kennedy, what really happened at Area 51. All kinds of cool shit.
It's all
Yep.
there. There is somebody. The funny thing is that everybody goes and investigates whatever they want to do. But I'll tell you right now, there are human beings on this planet that know all of it and know what's
Yep.
going on.
Yep.
You know what's interesting?
And they're right in front of you a lot of times too, and you'd never even know it.
Well,
Mhm.
somebody shared something with me about it that I had not considered before, but it makes a lot of sense. Is that some of those guys who worked at Area 51 when all of this stuff was going down and worked at these places and know these
Yes,
things,
David, the book.
they signed non-disclosures, obviously, but they're starting to reach the end of it, and all of a sudden these people are getting mysterious cancer and dying, or things are happening. And I was like, oh my gosh. And she was like, they're taking them out before they can reach the age of disclosure where they can talk about the things that they've seen and what they've worked with. And I was like, wow, that's
Listen,
actually scary.
Yeah, because they'll do that to you
the
and you won't even
shit
know
that-
it.
The shit that they can do and have done, it's
Mhm.
bad. It's bad.
But that's why we'll never know. Like the more you know, the bigger of a target you are. So if you worked in something
Yep.
like that, I mean, it would have to take a massive data leak, like a WikiLeaks situation where it's just out there and we all know at once, or else like no wonder these people do like the dead man switches and things like that.
That's
Because
right,
if
Noah.
just a few people know,
Yep.
it's yeah, that's why the whistleblowers are so
You know, they
important.
denied a lot of that, but everybody even back then knew Jack Ruby had something to do with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Everybody
I mean,
knew, and then they made a fucking,
I think Jack Ruby was just a hired killer, man. That's mobster, gun
Yep.
for hire, thug, whatever. I think that was the plausible deniability for the government, who obviously had a lot, if not everything, to do with the assassination. Kennedy didn't want us in Vietnam. I mean, there was a lot of
it's
stuff.
always an inside job, Jeff. I have never been convinced otherwise. It always is.
Mhm.
Always,
Yep.
always, always.
Yeah.
But they, like you said earlier, when Jeff and I had spoke about earlier shows where they put the blinders on you and they want you to follow that blind. Again, I take you back to the Anthrax album, Among the Living. Everybody's going one direction except the one person that looks back, and they all keep you in a shroud. And I think that it's always an inside job
So you control
because
people, man. Control the information. You control the people.
all anybody wants to do in any other country, they don't care about all the shit we see on Instagram and the news. They want to do business. It's all about business and trade. That's all. That's all they want. Business and trade. Now, what your business and trade is, that's strictly up to you. But that's all they really want. It's oil. It's big
Monkey
money.
business.
It's sex trade. It's organs, whatever. It's whatever. And it's business. And that's all they want to do. And if you're in the way of that, you're in the way. And if there is something coming, I don't know if I'm crazy or it seems like the sun is different than it ever was before.
Yellower or hotter?
Hotter
It's
and more
definitely
bright.
hotter right now.
Hotter and more bright. I remember being a kid, Jeff, and going outside in the summertime and really being able to see the greens. And the reason that we have those blue cones and yellow cones in our eyes is so that we can see the differences of colors and stuff. And everything seems so washed out anymore, dude. Like it's so bright and hot. Like I went out today. It's not real.
As you get older.
Well,
It's just like it's not real, man. It's so fucking hot. And even the old timers like, we don't remember the sun like this, and we don't remember straight clouds.
It's been the last 2 summers have been brutal.
Well, you know how sunflowers, and starts with an H, and Brittany, you might know the way that they
rotate
face
with it.
the
They
sun,
rotate towards the sun. Yeah.
yeah, it's called something. It starts with an H.
There were
and
several farms that they didn't.
The farmers were documenting their sunflowers not moving, not following the sun, and sunflowers are supposed to follow the sun.
I did.
And
I have been watching
hold
that.
hold on. And also with the sun, we would be amiss not to talk about it. Bill Gates wants to block out the sun, and they're trying to get it in UK right now. Look that up. They're trying to pass it so they can blast these nanoparticles, aka bring in straight clouds and chemtrails, okay, that disperse and have all this stuff in it. So they start out and then they create like a blanket in the ozone layer, as if the UK isn't already dark and dreary enough that they need more clouds up there blocking the sun. And and that's what those particles are doing. It's causing the sun's rays to bounce off so it doesn't reach Earth. And everything needs the sun: plants, animals, us.
So if they can't get rid of the population by leaking stuff, oops, I'm going to get canceled. Then we're going to just take away the sun.
No, it'd be my show. We're on my show tonight. So.
No, they would just kick me off. That's not the first time I've been kicked off or warned by somebody on a black phone somewhere. So,
well, I don't do that. So if you guys want to cancel Brittany, it is at Brit_investigates. I'm just rolling with it. No, but I mean, it's different. And it's very different. Sean said that they changed the big bulb from a soft white to a clear. And that, that's a well way to put that, because I feel it's just weird to me. I remember the heat.
But here's my question on that.
My
right?
animals are different now, Jeff, with it. It's just weird.
But here's my question, and I'll take it back. I'm going to circle it back to the way of consciousness and how we create this falsified reality or a being from it.
I'm sure.
Is it possible that because
money people,
our world shifted during 2020 for a short period of time out of an ordinary type of situation that we normally aren't in, right? Like we were housebound, we were landlocked, we had people ratting on neighbors. Oh my God, they have 4 people over there. It's only supposed to be 2.
Talk about a homunculus.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So I'm taking it back. It's a callback to that particular statement of, has the world really changed? Have we really shifted into another dimensional timeline, as such people say? Have we switched into a matrix like people are theorizing? Or because there are so many people that were shook through that process of COVID, that lost families, that didn't get to say goodbye, their worlds, they faced death, they came out of it, their endorphins are all wrong, everything is wrong. Did we as a society create this conscious, subconscious awareness that our world is different, but nothing's changed, just what we have created within ourselves with everyone else through a conscious effort to believe we're in the matrix when we're really not?
I agree with that things changed while we were in quarantine. Your senses were stifled. You weren't outside. You didn't have the smells and the sight and the hearing. It also, it was, and this is I'm a firm believer that if everybody locked down for 2 weeks at the beginning of COVID, it would have fizzled out really fast. But we didn't, and it was too little too late. But it changed our perception of things because we just stopped seeing things. I don't know if you guys have the same syndrome that I have, but ever since COVID, I never know what day it is. I days relative to other days, I don't. It's like time completely stood still and more or less disappeared.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't remember some things that I'm like, what? Why would I do that?
Yeah, it's like I did that before.
But I think Jeff's right, though.
In our past, that was
But think about what Jeff is saying, though. We were, for 3 months, realistically, we couldn't do anything outside of our home and property, right? And if we were outside for too many hours, we also had like timelines that we were allowed to be in and out of our home, and that's it.
Unless you lived on your own land.
To an extent, depends on how much land.
I was outside all the time. Trust me, I had animals.
But I'm saying you're still
I was
But
outside.
like Jeff is saying though, you're still quarantined to a small area. Like you are not getting the normal things that we need as beings. So it takes 28 days to rewrite your brain to create a habit into a routine and now a way of life. We expanded that by 2 additional times. We rewrote our brain function and wiring by not doing a normal functioning routine. We created a new routine that now, if nothing serves that routine, we feel we're in a matrix and we're out of it. Because we created a different routine for our brain and we rewired it.
Well, people
There's
are
a lot
also
of
still,
things that have been rewired. Yeah.
they're
that's
still
true.
quarantined too. A lot of people still work from home. So getting up and going out in public was different. And there's a lot more people sitting at home.
Right.
A lot
feel
more
like
kids
there's
are playing video games.
and things like that over the next decade or so. I think we're going to see a lot of mental illness
Well, we see
coming
enough
out
of that
because
now.
we spend so much time in there, and a lot more bacterial infections and viruses because we sat in there and we weren't exposed to the things that we're normally exposed to. So we ended up depleting our own immune systems, our natural immune systems.
Yep. And what did we sit in front of, Jeff? A screen with a blue light in it. And we all know what that does to us.
Yep.
Oh, and I was just thinking while you guys were talking, I think looking back, I think I was pretty fortunate. I worked at Target through the pandemic. So I was an essential worker. So I had to go to work every day. There was not a day that I didn't have to go. And actually thinking back on that time period, it was really crazy how things changed. Like when we first found out, I remember I would wear like a bandana to work, it was crazy. And like people were wearing like maxi pads. It was nuts.
Yes.
Like tying their shirts on there. Like it was really wild. And then I think it was really good to have, and I'm looking back now and seeing how lucky I was to have been an essential worker, because I think it kept some sort of a semblance of like a routine. Now things changed a little bit, like at Target, like they closed down like the changing areas and like people weren't allowed to try on clothes and stuff. So it was only like you had to come for essential goods, like clothes they did not deem as essential. It was just food, water, pharmacy, water, toiletries, things like that. Yeah. And it was crazy. That was a crazy, crazy time. I remember being really afraid during that time. Like I went out and I bought a gun. I was concerned. I was like, okay, I need to get my hands on something because I don't know what's happening. It was a really scary and uncertain.
It was very uncertain. It really was.
Everyone was so scared, and it was just such talk about the consciousness, like to y'all's points, like something definitely shifted when everyone's energy was like pouring into it, and just the attention it got on not just a national scale but a global scale. It didn't just impact us here, but it impacted
it was everywhere,
every nation.
We didn't even get the worst of it. I was in respiratory school during COVID, and it was super scary because people were, coding in 3 different parts of the hospital, and there just wasn't enough personnel to go around. There wasn't enough ventilators to go around. We were using what we had and doing the best with what we had left. There was a lot of it. There wasn't enough personal protective equipment at all. No N95s, no gowns and stuff like that. We used to have to bring home our masks in a little plastic baggie at night because there wasn't enough to get a new one the next day, when technically you're supposed to wear a new one every time you go in and out of a patient's room. So it's crazy. I mean, it was just, it changed me. It changed everybody.
But you know what's really funny? You know what's funny? Let this sink in. We were all locked up and locked in, unable to go anywhere, do anything. And yet the planet actually started to heal itself and thrive. And so did our animals. And what's funny is that they always want to blame.
I love it.
No. And we want to blame cows for hurting our freaking earth and everything else on this planet. However, they were not quarantined during this time. They were not locked into a cellar at this time where they weren't outside still farting away from the grass they were eating. And the trees and the ocean, which is the largest percentage of our oxygen on this planet, so we need both, okay? All of those were starting to thrive. Animals were coming into new areas where they hadn't before because of people. Like our planet was self-healing through that process. So whatever they thought, if it really was a release or whatever they thought they were doing, they actually helped our planet and hurt people. And that, I think, was the ultimate plan. if it
Mhm.
was truly leaked. I think that would be the ultimate plan, was to more or less hurt the people in the population and try and figure
Emotional
out how to
trauma.
help the planet grow.
Nah,
Trauma.
no, it was a way to sell more
Take
shit.
control.
Well,
The
you know, I was
people,
going to say,
the people behind it were
it showed
crooked.
that,
I'm sorry.
it showed
Oh,
that
yeah.
we're the real pandemic. We're the problem.
Yes,
You know, when the people aren't in the
Exactly.
equation, things start to get better. You know, things are
Exactly.
cleaner
That's
and
true.
nicer. The air is quality is better.
Bigfoot was cited more.
That's by other animals.
But
That's the point I was making, Jeff, was like, it's just a self-reflection to go, what can we do as a society or as the human race to stop making these horrible mistakes
mass
that we're
suicide.
making and figure it out so that we can better the planet and we can evolve properly.
I
Like,
think we devolved.
Yeah,
though.
right.
I agree. We have de-evolved. It's sad.
Absolutely
Like,
devolved. I
at the
think
same
that.
time, oh, go ahead.
No, please.
I was gonna say we did sell out of bikes. Like we couldn't keep bikes on the shelf. So although like people were staying inside, at least here in Florida, people
People were
were.
trying
I
to work
think
out.
some people were getting outside more, because there was nothing to do,
Right.
and so we sold out of bikes. We couldn't keep
And
a
you can
bike on the
socially
shelf.
distance.
Here's some of my favorite shit about it,
yeah.
because I always
social
have something to say.
Well,
Oh.
we experienced.
Well, it's got to be with the primate. Well, yeah, because it almost killed me. But
Yeah,
you got
were.
experiments with the primates and shit, and it's going to kill monkeys. Well, I contracted it while I was raising my baby primate, by the way, or Persimmon. And he was licking my gums and my face, cleans my ears. He never once got it. He's still here today. He's a beast. And then during that time, they're like, "We're sorry, we're really scared. We're going to ration the tests because we're short on tests." Same sentence that next week. The news comes out. We've tested tigers in the zoos, and tigers have come down with COVID. Well, if we're short on tests and we can't help people, but we're going to test tigers, which none of that was proven to be real, by the way. That was not true. No tigers ever got it. That was not a thing.
Yeah, they said there was like 3.
No monkeys died from it. And I always thought it was cool how little kids didn't really die from it, really. So
it was always the elderly.
There's something like Jeff said, maybe it was this or that. And Brittany was talking about if it was released, it was to do this. And then there's a theory that it was a manufacturer, anything that Fauci has to do with, or Gates, it's a problem. I'm sorry. I don't care. I just think whatever they do is what they do.
But that's me.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but it's whatever. But these guys,
Man,
these guys they're big farm and they're billionaires, just like everybody else in the political world. And end of story, we're just nothing but cattle and experiments.
I agree with that 100%.
And that's what happened.
I think that, it's a lot of people don't realize is coronaviruses aren't new. They've been around for the common cold, influenza. I mean, they're all coronaviruses, and this was just a different coronavirus. It was one like we'd never seen. It killed faster, it spread quicker, like gangbusters.
Like manufactured.
Oh well, I don't know.
I'm just saying it was very weird.
That's a theory out there. I mean, we may never know. That's an active
it very
theory.
well could have been a biological weapon, because it certainly had, the morbidity and the mortality to it were astronomical. It was just, and we didn't know what to do. I think Judy mentioned that people died from ventilators, and some people did because COVID makes your lungs. It gives you what's called ARDS. It's acute respiratory distress syndrome. So it stiffens your lungs. It takes all the compliance out of your lungs, so that when you go put somebody on a ventilator that's going to manually inflate their lungs, people lost lungs. I mean, it happened, especially because we were using a lot of older equipment because everything was already in use. There wasn't a hospital around that didn't run out of ventilators, and we would just grab what we could use as a ventilator or manually bag people, or it was fucking nuts, man.
Well, and it's sad too, because like even our sister who's a nurse, she even had said you can't live on a ventilitor. And most of the time, if you go on a ventilator, you're on your way out. Like that's your last hope. And most of them do not pull through. Like ventilators do not have a good success rate in that.
But
not during COVID in that regard. Like
most
that was a different wheelhouse.
Anyway. It just, and a lot of people that did pull through, their lungs are scarred.
Right.
Things like that, like long COVID I think long COVID is more of a product of trial and error treatment than it is of disease. I think that we as a healthcare collective scarred people's lungs, and I mean we didn't know what to do. It was
right. Well, that's the problem, is that kind of pandemic, nobody knew what to do.
That was
so fast and hard. Yeah.
So fast. And
Yep.
you know, it just,
Trial and error,
oh my
unfortunately,
gosh.
at the
Yeah,
lives,
my
at the
ex was
stake
a
of
nurse
people's
when
lives.
it started, before I started school. And I was so scared her going off to work every day, and she'd have to come home and literally like get naked in the fucking laundry room and, you
Oh
know,
yeah, the
burn
whole
her clothes.
rituals.
And
Yep.
we still to this day don't really know, um, is it a droplet? Is it airborne? That's the biggest controversy. Because if it's a droplet, a regular surgical mask is more than sufficient. But if it's airborne, you need a respirator like an N95 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it definitely, it's still, and there's another strain that's going around now that's contagious, like,
Oh God.
what's it called? Omicron was, but is making people sicker. I mean, uh, uh, what did they say? I was reading today that like 900 people died of COVID in Florida in 2024. Everybody thinks it's just gone. It's really not.
Yes, Noah.
I literally had COVID after the conference that we were all at. I woke up Sunday, okay? The conference was on a Saturday. I woke up Sunday. I'm sitting in Waffle House trying to enjoy my coffee and post-conference waffle right there in Ocala, Florida. And I'm like, oh, my throat is like hurting. So I just keep, drinking the coffee. And I came home and crashed because you guys know how those events, like just tons of people come up and talk to you, shake your
Yeah.
hand. You're
Yep.
you're
Takes a lot
chatting
out
with
of you.
everyone. And so yeah. So you're tired, and it was a long weekend. And then I woke up Monday and I was sick. And then by Tuesday, I was on the phone calling my doctor because I was taking a shower and I was like wheezing. And I'm like, huh. At first I thought, was it the Airbnb I stayed at? Did it kick up my allergies? Like I didn't even think COVID. They got me in because I've been sick in the past and had to get like a breathing treatment. It was really, so I was like, okay, this is just going to be allergies. It'll be fine. I'm going to get a breathing treatment. I'm going to be on my way. And I get there and she's like, oh, it could be, but let's just test for everything. So I was like, okay, whatever. Not expecting it. Next thing you know, 10 minutes later, she comes back in. She's like, well, you have COVID. And I was like, awesome. You're serious? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, great. And so then she's like, we're going to give you this Paxlovid. And I'm like, okay. And I will say,
It's tough
I
on your
started,
body.
well, I took it. No joke. I could already feel so much better the next day. Felt so much better, so much better. And by the weekend, I was good. But I will say I do think I experienced long COVID because in the weeks following, I was completely exhausted.
Yep.
Like,
That's
and
what
I'm not that type of
wipes
a
you out.
person. Yeah.
I've had COVID 6 times, and that were actually tested. I think I've had it a few others. But my biggest effect of COVID was sleeping. The time I had it the worst, thank God, I would wake up, I'd open my eyes for 10 minutes, and I'd sleep for 10 hours. And I'd do it again and again and again. And I'd wake up and I'd go right to the couch, lay on the couch, and fall right back asleep. It really affected everybody differently. But the sleep, the exhaustion was always there.
Well, the second time I got it was worse. I had it in 2020 and I was like, fine. It was like nothing to like, for me, it was very minimal. The second time I had it, I could barely walk around my house.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah.
it was
If you
awful.
get it bad, you get it bad. And you feel like you can't
Yeah.
breathe. And I
Yeah.
completely disagree with that, Noah, by the way. Ivermectin does not do anything for COVID. I'm going to go ahead and put that out there. It's a dewormer. It doesn't kill viruses. It doesn't shore up your immune system. It's really actually kind of dangerous to put it out there. But sorry, I just, medicine misinformation is like a personal thing for me.
Well, that's, hey, everybody's got their
Yeah.
thing.
Oh no,
The biggest thing was the biggest problem for me with COVID is like the scary part. It wasn't just the fear of being locked in, and we went through some shit through COVID, and I was actually pregnant through COVID. And so
Oh, wow.
when you think about it, and you
that.
and it was scary because I was like, oh my God, like I don't know what this virus is, and I don't want my baby to contract it. John couldn't be a part of anything, and it was a scary time. And but what bothered me the most, and being, I guess, in the fields in which I'm in, especially with the ufology side and dealing with a lot of government stuff all the time, and just understanding the levels of stuff that they do and the levels that they work at. What scared me is the idea of playing with things we shouldn't be playing with, like a bioweapon, a chemical weapon, anything like this, right? And what's really horrible is that we, the society and the general public, will always pay the consequence of someone's action, of them playing with something, manipulating something to try and figure something out that they shouldn't be messing with because they just want to see if they can make it work. Or they, it doesn't have to be US. It could be any other country that accidentally releases something, slips up on something, somebody gets out with something. These things scare the crap out of me because we are the ones that will suffer from somebody else or someone else's lab playing God with something they shouldn't. And then before you know it, it's something that nobody can control. And like Jeff's saying, another pandemic like this that we aren't prepared for in the hospitals or in the, that's another horrible scare. And it's like, I don't like the idea that at some level, somewhere in the government, they are doing things like this within labs.
Oh, there's plenty
figuring
of
stuff out
for viruses and bacteria in it, because they study them.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff that we already don't know about. And then there's stuff that, if you look at some of the diseases that have been eradicated, like smallpox, they could wipe out more than half this country with one easy, quick smallpox pandemic if people aren't vaccinated. Or botulism. There's so many things that could be weaponized and have been weaponized. That's the scariest form of warfare is biological, without a doubt.
Yes,
absolutely. Sure. And that's the scariest part, because we're the ones that pay for the consequence of it. And the other part that's scary to me is it's like they can do this. And honestly, it's scary because I'm like, I don't know what to believe anymore. Like, there's so much stuff coming out now on both sides, and it's not to create a debate tonight or anything like that.
I'm with you.
It's going, holy crap. So they couldn't get us in one way. So let's just say, I'm going to put out this hypothetical thing here. They're working in a lab. They're working on these diseases and things like this that literally they could put a drop in a napkin and half the society is gone. And then on the other side, they're weakening our immune system by infiltrating the foods that we eat, the diets we have, the way that we control our lights, our interaction with other people, the things that we drink, the things that we do. We have now doctors prescribing us prescriptions that they say it does one thing, but then it does another. Then it's like you get all this stuff. And it's like, if you look at it from a business of just upper head guys wanting to have some fun, it's like, okay, well, we could weaken these people so much that we literally can keep them in beds. We can keep the money coming in. We can get money from these insurance companies. We can keep getting these kids fed. We got kids now in hospitals and beds. It's a constant flow of money. And that's scary, because that greed of that hierarchy is enough to shut everything down. And where we de-evolve from is because we are being fed into reality of, you are eating healthy, you are doing right, but you're not. It's through, it's like once something leaks that's like, no, this is actually a truth. You need to be eating this. You need to be doing that. Then there's going to be 10 articles that are like, no, coming from like the larger pharmaceutical companies. That's actually really wrong. This person's lying to you. And it's like, oh, are they? Or are you just shutting them down because then you lose money? So again, it's like, it scares me as a person, because it's me protecting my own now, because you're like, no, I'm looking out for me and mine now. But that there are government levels that are doing these things, and they will weaken you so that when they want to release some type of chemical compound, your state is so weakened you can't fight it off. And you're gone. And it doesn't matter. They can reduce the population just like that. So it's a theory, hypothetically. I'm not saying that I'm 100% believing in it. But if you take everything that's out right now and put it into one lump, it is a complete control of it all that has been around for years. You know what I'm saying?
I've had COVID one time. It almost killed me, and I've never been sick again. Okay. You already know what happens. I have never once been sick again in 4 years. But I go through this convulsion for a little bit. I sweat for like an hour. I feel nauseous. Sometimes I'll fucking just shit water, and then in 10 minutes, I'm done. That's all that's ever happened to me. Number one. One thing I do remember, though, that was afterwards, but I was on they have done some stuff to me. I don't know what was in there. It was remdesivir. I did a plasma transplant. I was pretty much done. It was that simple. But what's up, Ben? But here's something crazy, Jeff.
Yeah.
Flavio and I were in Sarasota, and we were working at the zoo at the time. And there's an Amish community there, a large Amish community.
Mhm.
And Flavio said to them after the whole pandemic bullshit, he was like, "How did you guys fare during the pandemic?" And this man looked Flavio in the face and said, "We don't eat anything with FDA on it, and we don't have TVs. We didn't lose anybody." I could not believe that. Flavio looked over at me, and I was like, "Well, that makes sense." And they never had a problem because they're already isolated. Right.
But
it's very weird, Jeff. They didn't lose anyone. Isn't it weird? And they don't eat. They don't believe in anything with FDA. If it says FDA, that's
a lot of the measles outbreaks are in Amish and Mennonite communities.
I believe that. But I think my parents had the measles. I think everybody had the measles when they were young. I think I could be wrong.
I mean, the measles does not have a very high mortality rate among adults, but it definitely, the younger you are and the less your immune system is developed, it certainly kills kids. I mean, measles was gone. It was gone. We had under 200 cases a year in the United States, and now this year in 2025 already, and it's only May. We've had over 1,000 cases.
Yeah.
But don't you ever wonder, Jeff, of like, obviously there are cases, but don't you ever wonder if like some of it is being extremely fluffed in some areas just to push like,
No, not necessarily, because it really, I mean, measles is the reason people freak out over measles and things like mumps, varicella, stuff like that. It's because we haven't had it for so long.
That's what he said.
Third world country disease, just like measles, mumps, tuberculosis. I mean, they're all things that we don't really hear about here anymore. And then all of a sudden, rubella, that they're starting to pop back up in populations, and they're mostly populations with low vaccination rates. I'm not saying that everybody should get vaccinated, but I mean, if you look at if you go get your measles, mumps, rubella titers taken, it would tell you about how immune you are to measles. I'm 99% on mumps and rubella and 100% on measles. So I literally cannot get.
Didn't we all have measles? Didn't we already have measles shots when we were
most kids did?
When
we did. I know we did.
In the 70s.
Mumps, rubella. That's the biggest childhood shot, and then you also get the it used to be dip tet. Now it's
nice, Jeff. Yeah, that's a good question. It's true. But we did have a lot of people coming in, and a lot of those areas couldn't afford that too.
You're totally wrong on that, man. It's got nothing to do with illegals. It's got 100% to do with unvaccinated people, and the vaccinations in other countries are stronger than they are here a lot of the time. I'm argumentative tonight. I apologize to y'all, but I'm just trying to set the record straight. It was Ant.
No, you're passionate. You're passionate about it, Jeff, and that's okay. I mean, again, how many times have we said on the show we're allowed to be passionate about these things because we respect everybody's viewpoints. I mean, that's the point where we come together. So it's all good, man.
The measles outbreaks, if there was a huge measles outbreak in the undocumented community, trust me, we would hear about it every day, all day, on every news station. Yeah. Because people love to scare us, and they love to, if we don't have a boogeyman, we're not happy. There's always got to be a boogeyman.
We have to have something.
We always have to have a homunculi.
And a homunculi,
that's right.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And now knowing that, I look through society, I'm like, shit, we've done that a lot.
There's a lot of homunculuses. Homunculi.
Yeah.
Right, sorry. I thought you said, Jeff, that it's coming from people coming from other countries, the measles.
No, I don't know.
It isn't.
That's to you, Jeff.
Yeah, Jim.
Oh, what happened? What? Where? Who?
That was Jim.
Jim said, "Hey, beautiful."
Jimmy B. How's the new pool?
I think at the end of the day, there are so many the whole thing comes down to being fear controlled, and that's you can't get a clear answer right now, Jeff, even from some of the medical, unless it's talking to you where you're like, listen, here's the matter of fact, right? There's
they
still
were forced.
People. Exactly. And it's you just can't get a safe answer. You fear and that you can't trust anyone. So it's and I don't think you should be so gullible to trust everybody. Let me just state that. But
I don't trust anybody.
Exactly. And it's just our country almost in an essence, after a while, was built on fear. And it's we don't know how to live without some type of fear control on us. And it's the moment.
Right.
Exactly. It's like the moment the society gets a crack in it, they have to come up with a new fear to make sure they seal that crack back up, you know? And it's like, you can't have a strong society. I've said this every single time we have a discussion about this because I see it all the time, even in the fields that I work in. You cannot have a strong-headed society because they will fight back against you and they will win. We're much larger than just a capital of maybe 100 people pulling all the shots, and they just do that, you know?
Yeah.
Jim Brinkley is a friend of Jeff's. Noah, he comes in
Jim
here and
Brinkley,
says,
he's the people.
he says shit like that to Jeff every time he comes on. Bro, he's fucking awesome.
He
He's
wants
like,
it.
I thought it was the guy at first or a couple shows back.
Yeah, it's like, no,
So
that's it.
But yeah, no, if you look at like,
exactly.
even look
Yeah,
at like every president back then, as long as you can remember, each one had something that they were rallying or fighting against, whether it was Saddam, Reagan, it was the freaking
Exactly,
Sandinistas,
correct.
and Bush one, it was, I mean, everybody's got somebody, you know.
Yep.
Of course.
If we don't create an anti-hero, we can't rally together against something, you know what I mean?
Yep. And they've tried everything over the years. They've tried every which way to control us. And unfortunately, I feel that, to be honest, when they went high-end digital and everybody's got everything at the palm of their hands, you cannot undo something as quick as it gets out, like they used to with, newspapers and stuff, right? Or the control of normal just news media.
Oh, it's a headline before you blink.
Exactly. And so it's hard to undo that because somebody's already taken a snapshot of it. So they can't say it wasn't there because somebody's like, no, I took a picture of that. I have it saved in my camera. You know what I mean? And so it's
scary.
like, it's their downfall when they thought it was going to help them, but it was like their downfall of creating a beast that will fight against them. And because of that beast, it has awoken a lot of us within to take a second look and become a little bit more rebellious. No. I said awakened, not woke.
But
there's a difference, my son.
You want to hear something crazy?
I'm like a rebellion of Star Wars, okay? Sorry,
to this day, they still put iodine in our table salt because people were having iodine insufficiency and getting, what they call them, goiters. So the government started putting iodine in the salt. That's why we have iodized salt, because it was put in there as a supplement, because the government knows what we need better than what we need for ourselves.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So it might be a little late in the game to bring this up, but something to think about. Have you guys heard about pink Himalayan salt actually being the bodies of giants?
I have heard that.
I read that. That's crazy, isn't it?
I use it a lot.
Have you heard that, Brittany?
I like it.
Bodies of giants?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
So
you should read about that. It's weird.
It is. So basically, if you look at the pink Himalayan salt mines, they look like tissue, right?
Yeah.
And it has to do with the flood and the Himalayan mountains being a higher place for giants that could have been trying to escape. And so they all died up there when God flooded the earth, when Noah happened, right? And these giants died. And so I think it's the minerals that are in there as well is only it's found in like tissues and things like that. So it has so many benefits. That's why, like, in the health community, pink Himalayan salt is really pushed because it's got like magnesium, this, that, blah blah blah. So it's got all these things. Yeah. So it has and so they say it could be the bodies of giants, and then there's some other there's more to it, but that's basically a summary of it.
Hey,
Okay.
Really cool.
I'm gonna be.
When they cut it up, it looks like when you chop steak.
I've seen it. I've seen how they've made Hawaiian salt, but I never knew the theory of it being giants. Like, as much as I'm obsessed with giants, now I got to go read this.
It might be giants.
Oh yeah, and I'll send you.
I like weird. I do like reading weird shit like that because it's weird. I like reading. I just think it's entertaining too. And if there's facts to it, cool. Yeah, it's just fun.
Yeah, these theories
there's
are
a podcast that covered it really well. I'll send it to you. That, like, the most comprehensive, not argument, but deep dive on it that I've come across. The Conspiracy Pilled podcast, they did it on that, and it was really good. They do, before they split, it used to be this guy and this girl, and then they had like a falling out. But it was like one of the last episodes they did before,
because she didn't want to eat giants. That's why they had a falling out. She was like, I'm not a cannibal.
By the time you finish the episode, I was looking at my salt on the counter, like, but I'm like, I don't like wasting things. So I'm like, I'm gonna use it until it's gone.
Just
But
Well,
I
you
don't know.
know, they died for a cause. You
That's
know, you
right.
have to
Don't
look
make
at
it
it the
in
other
vain.
way.
At least use
No,
them.
like their bodies are good for us. So, you know, and it's like if you circle all the way back to the beginning, because I know we're close, like way over the show, but like if you circle back to the beginning and we talk about historical facts of Neanderthal, Denisovans, primitive, original, you know, basically us, men, women, whatever.
OG.
We actually drank blood for certain minerals that were coming from the blood, as well as the bone marrow and other parts of the body when we would eat. So
Love bone marrow.
when people talk about, and it wasn't just like, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the Neanderthal were believed to have been cannibal in 2 different parts, one in Italy and another area. So it's in anthropology. I was reading up on a case that happened through the state of Colorado. Their anthropology team went out, and they do believe that this part of the Neanderthals were cannibalistic in a sense of how we look at cannibalism. But there was a reason as to why they were doing this, was because of the minerals and the certain things within the bone and the blood that they needed. So in a sense, we originated from being vampires, if you want to take it as you will. I wanted to say that at the time because we did drink
Deep.
certain types of blood for the mineral purposes of what it provides to our body. So there is that. From an anthropological, yeah, I was just getting that, an anthropological viewpoint of how early humans ate and drank blood. So there is that tidbit for you. Neanderthals were vampires. You're welcome. New theory for everyone tonight. And yeah, Sage is right. The Native Americans. Yep. Yeah. The redheaded giants out in Lovelock, out in Nevada. That is a huge case. That's one I studied and have studied very much and talked to a lot of the people out there. And that's actually more in depth than books have on it.
I think we talked in depth on one show about the all the sightings of giants by the soldiers in Afghanistan in the mountains.
Yes. Yep. To this day.
That there were several sightings and giants save people and kill people, and it's craziness.
Yep.
Dude.
A lot of them, like, their belief is, I'm sorry, nobody will ever convince me otherwise. I am a firm believer in giants. I firm.
Have you ever seen the new bull? The guy's like 7'3".
I know. to sit in a world to believe we didn't have him, man. Huh?
I said a lot of people from supposedly where the cradle of civilization was are very, 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 very tall. Yep. Not giant tall, but over 7 feet, which to me, since I'm 5'10",
that's a fucking giant.
That's a giant.
I'm 5'10", so me looking at somebody that's you know, a good head taller than me is pretty crazy.
Oh, yep, the rock apes. Noah, also look up the spiny back chimps in the Congo. That's a good read if you haven't looked into that either. Several accounts with the spiny back.
Eaters of the Dead. Didn't they make a movie about that, Craig, called the
I'm pretty sure they
it had Antonio Banderas in it, the 13th Warrior.
I'm pretty sure
I was thinking more like Desperado, or you know.
That was called the 13th Warrior.
But I haven't read that book, Greg.
Antonio Banderas and a bunch of Vikings. It was a really wild movie, I'm pretty sure.
Sage.
A Zorro Viking crossover. Nice. Got to see it.
Thanks a lot, Sage. I appreciate you. And we're going to close out anyways. We've been on here doing funny shit. Well, we're an hour and 33 minutes into the show, and I appreciate everybody coming out and commenting tonight and hanging out with us here. We always have a good time. If you want to check it out, it is on the Motley Croc YouTube channel. I just use that as a place to store. I don't really promote it, but if you want to go back and see the show or anything you missed, or listen to Brooke's story and the homunculus, if you came in late, go back and check it out. It's actually a really cool thing. And Brooke, thank you for coming tonight. You don't have to log off. You just have to sit tight. I'm going to end it, but you don't have to log off because a lot of my guests do that, and I don't get to really thank them.
Bye,
so
Matthew.
Thanks, Noah. Thanks, Matthew.
Bye, Noah. Bye, Sage. Bye, Craig.
And I appreciate all you guys coming out. I want to say good night, and we will see you all next week. Until then,